4 o'clock, and good afternoon. I hope, excuse me, you guys have had a great day. You are joining our session for the NCEES end of year teacher and support staff evaluation process. I am Cammie Naren, and we'll get started in just a second. Let me get this message. In your chat will be a link to our slides if you'd like to have a copy of your own to follow along or take notes in while we're doing the session, but that is your choice. Get to our next slide. All right, we are using Webex, and we are in a Webex event. So hopefully you're going to see some controls kind of like you see on the screen, depending on how you came into the event. You have a place to open your chat. We ask that you put most of your questions in the chat and make sure you send those to everyone. Now, of course, if you have a question just for Kim or I, you or somebody individually, you can, of course, change the chat to send to people individually. We do have a Q&A portion as well, so I'll keep that open, but we like for everybody to put their questions in the chat, because everybody will probably have some similar questions. All right, if we don't have any questions about that, also let me talk about the 3 dots. If you're having audio difficulties, you can go under there and switch up your audio as well. And I am Cammie Naren. I am working with NCDPI on the home-based team in digital teaching and learning. And I am your NCEES education product consultant and manage the system side of the teacher evaluation system. I am joined today by Kim Simmons, and she is an awesome resource for you guys. I'll let her say hi.
Hi, Cammie, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our NCEES webinar today. I always look forward to the end of the year webinars that we can have, because so many questions start coming up, and it's just a great time for us to share information and make sure that you have our contact information so you can reach out to us for support during this time of year. So thanks for having me with you today, Cammie, and I'll be watching Cammie, I only see a Q&A. That's what I have on my screen, just FYI.
Okay. Yeah, you should be able to go into your panel and open your chat as well.
Okay.
Yeah. If not, I've got it open so I can keep an eye on that as well.
I got it. Okay.
Great.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us, Kim. And we also have Robert Sachs. He is our NCEES business owner in Educator support. He is awesome, and he and Kim both answer your policy questions, and so they are awesome resources for you. So all of our emails are here, and they'll be posted at the end of the slide deck as well. So we just asked for you to minimize your outside distractions during the webinar, be attentive and participate. Use the chat on your dashboard to ask questions. You can notify us if you're having difficulties. We'll try to help you out as much as we can. And then make sure your microphone is muted. You should have come in muted. You do not need to have your video on for this webinar. Today, we're going to just relook at accessing the NCEES system and reviewing the teacher evaluation process, completing the observation number 3 container, and completing the summative evaluation. And then we're going to take a quick look at your professional development plan and how to complete the end of year container in your professional development plan. And then we stress that the district administrator should be completing, and I have a typo there, I will fix that, the 2021 reports for this year before the end of the last day of school. And then we have an area of some additional resources for you. There will be a follow-up email. We schedule that within the week after the end of the webinar. It will include a link to our NCEES feedback survey, and that link is here as well. You must do the feedback survey, and then it will email you a link for your certificate that you can save a copy of, put your name on, and print out for your district and turn in for approval. There'll also be a link to the recording of the webinar, links to resources that we discussed, and I usually try to do a frequently asked questions for any questions that you turn in. I try to put those in an FAQ for you, and then also answer any questions that we couldn't answer during the webinar. All right, so we're going to get started. Let me put this link into our slides one more time in the chat. All right, so guys, be sure if you have any questions, please ask them. We do have a small group today, so we've got about 15 or 20 of you out there. So do ask those questions as they come up, and Kim and I will answer them for you as we go. So everybody should know now that it's getting toward the end of the year how to get in the system, but just a quick reminder, you go in through the NCEED Cloud IAM dashboard. So once you log into our single sign-on system, you'll get the dashboard, and you'll look for that blue cyan PowerSchool letter P with the letters acronym for NCEES underneath. Everybody's going to land on their home page. So here's just a quick example of what the home page looks like. I do try to post links to the webinars we have here, but they're also posted on our NCEES Google site, and we have a link to that in our resources slides. Do watch the welcome area. I try to post updates, especially PD that's coming up, the different areas of our different departments that DPI are offering. Do watch that area for some additional information. The help guides page was updated this year. You have a lot of new guides out here. It does look different than the screenshot here, so go check it out. It's now organized by plan type for the teacher support guides, and the district administrator guides are divided up into district and site administrator guides. So let's jump into your teacher evaluation process. And I'm going to turn this over to Kim.
Thanks, Cammie. So here we have the teacher evaluation process one-pager that you can find on page 21 in the teacher evaluation manual. And you can also find this document on the NCEES Google site, and the link is in the slide. But our focus for today will be mostly on step 4, the summary evaluation and goal setting. However, before we get there, let's take a minute to review the information in step 3 to ensure that we are wrapping up our observation cycle. So step 3, the observation cycle, includes component 5 and 6, the observations and the post-observation conference. And so by this time of the year, you should be in the final round of your observations in order to have enough time for growth and improvement of practice, for you to have had the observation and have provided that feedback to promote growth. As a reminder, though, if you are a teacher with less than 3 years employment, you are on a comprehensive evaluation cycle, meaning you have 3 formal observations by your principal or designee and 1 formal by your peer. All formal observations last 45 minutes or the entire class period. And if you are a teacher with more than 3 years employment, just a reminder that you're on the standard or abbreviated cycle. And for the standard cycle, the principal will conduct 3 observations, including at least 1 formal observation. And some of you may be on the abbreviated cycle, which means the principal will do 2 observations on standards 1 and 4 only. And the observations for an abbreviated observation may be formal or informal, depending on the principal makes that decision, which means it could last 20 minutes or 45 minutes. And just as a reminder, that's the only difference between a formal and an informal observation is the length of time, informal being 20 minutes and formal being 45. So, and then for component 6, that post-observation conference, they should be within 10 school days after each formal observation. And if this has not happened, we suggest that you redo the observation if the post-op was not if you were not able to have that within 10 days. It just isn't relevant data to review after 10 days. And so we definitely suggest that you do that. And that policy dictates that you do another one. Post observations are not required for informal observations, and that's a big question that comes up usually this time of year. But they are recommended so that the principal and teachers can have an opportunity to discuss best practices and whatever the principal did see during that time in your classroom. Here we have a chart that just does a review. It's just a quick look chart at what the minimum observation requirements would be, and the data that I just covered is all covered here on this chart. And again, this is on the NCEES Google site, and I also have that link, and I'll put it in the chat bar when I finish with my part. So the most important thing to remember is that the observations are a series of formative assessments where data is collected on each of the observation rubrics, and it's really about growth. That's the most important thing to remember about the evaluation. And at the end of the year, all of this data is considered together to determine how many times throughout the year each of those items on the rubric, those descriptors, were noted, how many times that they were marked. So that's what happens at the end of the year during the evaluation.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Do you guys have any questions? Okay, so let's get into the system. We are going to be showing screenshots. If later you guys want to jump into the live side to see anything, just let us know in the chat. So here's a screenshot where we have logged into NCEES, and the teacher has clicked on My Evaluation. Evaluators, you're going to be clicking on Staff Evaluations to open up an evaluation. So the teachers are going to click on to whatever plan type they have under the Current Evaluations tab to reopen their plan. They're going to be looking for those green check marks that their training and orientation has been done, observation 1 has been done, observation 2 has been done, and this applies to comprehensive and standard plans. The abbreviated and late hire plans, you may only have observation 1 and 2. Late hire plans, they must only have at least observation 1, but could have more. So the standard and comprehensive plans must have all of these green checks. And then we're going to get into observation 3, and you're going to click anywhere in that area to open up observation 3. So here's a look at the channel for observation 3, and you can see all of the activities that are in that channel, and look for the asterisk to know what is actually required to complete the activities in observation 3. And for here in this plan, it's only the formal observation 3. Now, can you do the pre-observation and pre-observation conference? Yes, you can, but it's not required for observation 3. I did want to also note that if you notice on the formal or informal activities, there is going to be an email icon right there. So if you needed to email teachers, you needed to email your evaluator or other folks with access to your plan, you actually have a link right there. And evaluators, you do as well when you're looking at this activity to email that person. You can change the subject, you can change the text, and you can send the email. Just a reminder that if you see the circle with the letter I in it, the activity is unavailable until you've completed a previous activity that's required to open up the unavailable activity. So if you can't click into here, you may want to hover over the I to see what is required to open it up. So let's look over the process for the observation cycle. It starts with the evaluator with the pre-observation conference if you're using that. If that is done, then the teacher acknowledgement or support staff, that applies to you too as well, then acknowledges the pre-observation if those steps have been done. Definitely the formal observation will be done. That is done by the evaluator. And then the post-observation conference takes place. The teacher then acknowledges afterwards. If the teacher wants to supply a written response to the conference or to any step in here, this is available here. It can be done at any time. It can be done multiple times. The written response must be acknowledged by the evaluator. They get an email. They must go in there. They have a box to check to say that they've seen it and they are acknowledging it. And then you can work together to see if anything needs to be updated in that post-observation conference note. Once everything is completed, the evaluator has the responsibility to lock this channel. So they're going to lock the whole activity. Everybody is ready to move on to the next step, and they can go ahead and lock this activity to open up the next step. They want to talk about the record of teacher activities reports. Anybody can run a record of activities reports that has access to the plan. You have to open the plan and go into the activities and scroll down to the record of teacher activities, record of evaluation activities here. Open it up. There are two activities in there. One is the record of teacher evaluation activities, and one is your observation scoring summary, which we'll look at in a minute. So we're currently looking at the record of teacher evaluation activities. The evaluator can edit this to add notes into the teacher background right here. This is a good place. Some districts do use it to put teacher background information in there. A lot of districts use this to put the notes that they want to keep up with. I moved this teacher from a individual PDP to a monitored PDP. They put those kind of notes in there. Or this teacher went on leave and now they're back and we're completing the plan. Good place that for those kind of notes can get in there. So here's where you print in this final screenshot, how you print your record of evaluation activities. There'll be a drop down and it's called print template. And then here we're looking at an abbreviated template. So you just click the drop down, click the report, and it will run and print out for you. It does show all the dates and times that the activities were done and who signed. Any questions before we move on? Here's a sample of one of those record of activity reports. This shows your teacher name, what school year it is, the school that you're connected to. Put a little red exclamation up here because this person appears to be connected to Guilford County and Randolph County. And that's probably an issue. Somebody needs to go into Staff UID and inactivate one of these school systems, because normally most teachers are only connected to one school system. Then it also shows what your position is. Here we're showing the role, and this person is the teacher in the classroom. And again, it shows each activity that could be done. If it was done, it puts a date. And if it was a signature activity, it puts who signed it at what time on what date. And then at the bottom, it shows your observation start and end time. All right, so you can print those throughout the year for your evaluations. We'll look at the PDP record of activity later. So your other activity that was in that container was your observation scoring summary. And so you just click on it and open it up and you can see it. I hope it's big enough for you to see what's going on in these little boxes. At the top of the page, you're going to see every observation that was done, who it was done by, when it was started, and what the activity was. So here's formal observation 1, formal observation 2. You know, we're getting ready to do 3. And so here's the little menu drop down. You can click and print any feedback information, things like that, in this observation scoring summary. As we move down the page, you're going to see a summary of both of these observations tallied below. So in this first area, this person was marked developing twice, once during formal observation 1 and once during formal observation 2. And it's reflected here. And you can go across and C, where those are marked under proficient, and then accomplished doesn't have anything marked, and so on. So it's just a good way to see a summary of the tallies. If you only wanted to see what you got during formal observation 1, under the by field, you can uncheck one of the observations, and then the tallies will only show what has been checked for formal observation 1, because you unchecked or turned off formal observation 2. Any questions about that? All right, I do see somebody is connected to more than one school system. We can email each other later, and you can also contact your NCEES lead and have them check on it as well. Okay. Any other questions? All right, I don't see any coming in right now. Let's move on to your summative interview evaluation, and I'm going to turn it back over to Kim.
Okay, thanks, Cammie. So this takes us directly to component 7 of our summary evaluation and goal setting. This component 7, the summary evaluation conference and scoring the teacher summary rating form. So prior to the end of the school year, the principal conducts a summary evaluation conference with the teacher to discuss components of the evaluation cycle type used, comprehensive or standard. At the conclusion of the conference, the principal gives a rating for each element in rubric for evaluating the North Carolina teachers, comments on not demonstrated ratings, gives an overall rating of each standard observed, and provides teacher the opportunity to add comments to the summary rating form. Then reviews the completed teacher summary rating form with the teacher and secure the teacher's signature on the record of teacher evaluation activities and teacher summary rating form. And all this information is included in the chart. So let's go to the next slide. Let's talk about determining that rating and making sure we understand what that means. When determining the rating for each element, your principal will identify the first descriptor that has not been marked throughout the year. Click again, Cammie. See if there you go. So here it has been circled in red, sorry, and then the rating for an element in the lowest rubric column category for which all descriptors were observed at least once during the evaluation cycle. So the rating for element 1A would be, click, developing. So sometimes we have lots of questions about this and understanding it, but the important thing to remember is this is the element ratings that we're doing now, and then that will feed information into the standard rating. So let's go to the next slide. And then on the bottom of the screen, you see that for standard 1 of the summary rating sheet for teachers, you would mark developing for 1A, leads in the classroom. So the same process is applied throughout each element. For element 1B, teachers demonstrate leadership in the school, the rating would be proficient. Okay, do I have any questions on this, on the process of the element ratings? Okay, so now I'll let you guys try. Let's look at elements 1C, D, and E and determine what you think the element ratings would be for those elements. And then if you want to put your answers, your responses in the chat, that would be great. What do you think the ratings for elements C, D, and E would be?
You're very quiet today, Kim.
I know.
Anybody have any input or what you think the rating should be for this person for C? D, or E? Developing has a couple tally marks. Proficient has some tally marks. Accomplished doesn't have any. What would they be for C?
Or would anyone like for us to review the process?
Oh, they can't. They're having a hard time seeing it.
Okay, hard time seeing them.
Yep. Oh, we're getting some answers. Proficient. Kelly says proficient. Shelley says proficient. Tanya says proficient.
Okay, good. Okay.
And
Click.
that's correct, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Because there wasn't any marks here under accomplished, so you move back to the last one that had everything marked.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was just coincidence that all these were the same. So yes. Okay.
Very good. Thanks, guys.
And so here you see the chart at the bottom of the sheet where it would be filled in, when you determine the element ratings, and then you fill those into the summary rating sheet for teachers. So, we're missing a chart.
Yeah, I don't know why that's not showing up.
So after rating for each element, after that's established, an overall rating for the standard is determined. And when we're determining the summary evaluation, yeah, we got it.
I'm just trying to make it show up.
Yeah.
It's still not showing up. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay, that's okay. But when we're determining the evaluation, it's important to remember that teachers may attach comments or artifacts to be considered by the evaluator before marking the final standard rating. So you have all these element ratings that's been gathered from the data from the observations throughout the year. But at the time of the summative evaluation at the end of the year, teachers can still attach comments, artifacts, anywhere where they feel like maybe the observations were not telling of some of the things that they were doing to meet their PDP goals, especially, or any of the standard goals for that matter. But teachers can attach those things and they should be considered. And then for each standard 1 through 5, the evaluator makes a reasonable assessment based upon evidence, which is the observation data, considering the element ratings derived from the observations, and then any other relevant information that can help inform the rating of the overall standard. And when we're talking about any other relevant information, that could be information that the teacher provides, but that could be additional information that the principal wants to consider. And that could range from anything from project goals that they may have, from school improvement, meeting notes, or just successes and areas to grow, and this teacher's participation on that school improvement team. Any of that data that a principal wants to take into consideration, as long as it's relevant, it can be considered and should be. And comments should be written in all sections to support and reflect the ratings. And the reason why that is included and why it's so important is because the more feedback we can provide, the better. And teachers should expect feedback, relevant feedback. Teacher signature indicates the observation was reviewed, and that's another question that comes up this time of year. Just because you sign, you have your signature, that doesn't necessarily mean that you agree with it. It just indicates that the observation was reviewed. And that's a question when we need to close out the observation and teachers are hesitant because they don't agree. Your signature doesn't say that you agree or disagree. It just indicates that the observation has been reviewed. And then the evaluator signature indicates observation reviewed and the processes have been followed. And for, oh, there it is.
That was weird. Oh, it must have had a action on it.
Yeah. All right. So then on the next slide, for your information, the directions for completing the end of the year final summary evaluation is located on page 36 of the teacher evaluation manual. And I will put a link to the manual in the chat. for you. But anything that I've just reviewed is on this sheet, on this page, on your manual, page 36.
Okay. Thank you, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's look at that summary evaluation. I do have a question before we do that. It says, I got my manual out and the manual pages are not matching up with those presented. Mine is from May 2015. What date was the manual last updated?
I think it was 18. Yeah,
Okay.
it was 18. I'm putting a link to it. I'm getting the link to it to put in the chat.
Okay. Thank you for the question, and thank you, Kim. All right, so going back into NCEES, we are looking at a screenshot of a standard evaluation plan, and we are getting ready to get into the summary evaluation. And of course, we're going to look for, has everything that's been required to open the summary evaluation been done? For the standard evaluation, it's going to be your training and orientation, your observation 1, 2, and 3. All must be completed with a green check before the summary evaluation is accessible. So on this screen is the actual channel. When you click into that summary evaluation, and in the little inset up here, the green dots show what must be completed to open the summary evaluation by plan type. So comprehensive has to have the 3 observations and a peer observation. Standard has to have 3 observations. Abbreviated has to have 2 complete, and late hire has to have 1. Now, can you do more? Yes. So, but these are the ones that are required to open up that summary evaluation. And here is just a picture of the channel for the summary evaluation and the required areas. So definitely the summary evaluation form for the standard plan, standards 1 through 4, will have an asterisk. Now, you guys are going to be looking at dates from 2020, 2021. This screenshot is from last year, but it still applies. You're still going to see the same looking channel right here. Notice this one is not open yet. It has the I. So the conference is not available until this evaluation form has been completed. So the steps to complete the summary evaluation form and who's responsible for them go: the principal or the evaluator is responsible for doing the beginning step, that summary evaluation form. And then he's going to do the evaluation conference, and the teacher is going to acknowledge. They have a chance to do a written response, and the evaluator would acknowledge any written responses. And then once everybody's satisfied, the evaluator has the step to lock that summary container. So, and Kim just said all this, so I won't repeat it. When you are acknowledging the conference, the summary evaluation conference, then you are acknowledging that the steps have been followed. The observation has taken place. And the review conference process does not necessarily mean you agree. That's what your written responses are available for, to send any kind of comments, good questions, anything you want to send additional artifacts. You can use your written response to let the evaluator know. All right, that is wrapping up the evaluation side of the system. We're going to get into the professional development plan next. Do we have any questions before we move on? Okay, I am not seeing any come in right now. So let's get into the professional development plan.
Okay.
Yep, we're ready.
Yeah. Okay, Cammie. So that takes us to component 8, the PD plans, and the second part of step 4, goal setting. To the right, we have a completed summary rating sheet for teachers. We must determine which of the PD plans the teacher will complete for the next school year. So the choices would be the individual growth plans, and that means the teacher received proficient or better, the monitored growth plan, at least one developing, or the directed growth plan, the teacher received a not demonstrated or developing rating for 2 sequential years. So let's take a look at the overall rating for each standard here on this summary rating sheet. And since this teacher has a rating of developing for standard 4, they would be on the monitored growth plan. So what does that mean? And here we have the different professional development plan types: the individual PDP, the monitored PDP, and the directed PDP. So all new teachers and teachers who are rated at least proficient on all standards are on the individual PDP, which means the teacher develops their individual goals for growth. They do a self-assessment, they develop their own goals, and they meet with the administrator 3 times throughout the year to discuss. The teacher that we just rated, or we looked at the summary rating form and decided that teacher would be on a monitored PDP. That's for the teacher that was rated developing on 1 or more standards on the summary rating form. That means the administrator and teacher meet together to discuss and develop goals. And usually those goals are based on the summary rating form and what areas were rated at developing. They should meet at least 3 times during the year to discuss, and we recommend quarterly or every 6 weeks. And then the directed PDP for teachers rated not demonstrated on any standard on the teacher summary rating form or developing on 1 or more standards on the summary rating form for 2 sequential years. The administrator develops the goals for this teacher based on the observations and additional documentation, and meets with the teacher to review the development plan. Policy dictates 3 times during the school year to discuss. We recommend for the directed PDP that monthly discussions about the teacher's growth is recommended. So, and something else to consider, and a reminder that the evaluation process is about growth, which means that neither of our plans, individual, monitored, or directed, this is not a recommendation for dismissal, demotion, or non-renewal unless that is specifically stated in your local policies that you are using these plans for that purpose. Otherwise, this is a part of the teacher evaluation, and it's about growth, and these are just different roles served for that growth plan to be developed and reviewed.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. Any questions? All right. So let's get back into NCEES to the system and go re-open your PDP. This is actually the teacher view. Remember, evaluators will be going under staff evaluations, finding the PDP and opening up, clicking on the staff name to open the plan. But teachers and support staff, this is what you're going to see under your current evaluation. It should be your professional development plan for 2020-2021. So you just click on that channel and open it up. And then you're going to see the activities that have been done so far this year. For the professional development plan, of course, you have that initial self-assessment, must have a green check. The PDP initial review must be complete. The PDP mid-year review must be complete. And then the PDP end-of-year review will be accessible, and you can click into that. So here's your PDP end-of-year review. This is the channel. It contains your PDP details end-of-year review, which is required. The PDP evaluator's signature end-of-year review is also required, but it's not accessible at this time because this step has not been done. Don't skip over the mentor signature if you know the this staff has a mentor assigned. So then the mentor needs to sign off, but the mentor signature is not required for all the staff in the system. So you need to keep up with which staff have mentors, and should this mentor signature be signed before the end of the year. So make sure that that is signed. Don't forget that step. And then, of course, the PDP teacher signature will be the final activity in there. So the PDP review cycle, this one starts with the teacher or the support staff who enters the PDP details. And I have some little screenshots in there. When you open the slides later, it'll be a little bit bigger for you. But you're going to see a way to click new for your PDP end of year review and fill out the form that opens up. And then secondly, the evaluator then reviews the goals and notes, was the goal successfully completed? What is that goal progress? They can also click in and edit their evaluator comments and add any new comment. Third, the PDP mentor signature. This is required for those beginning teachers. So if this plan belongs to a beginning teacher, this professional development plan, make sure the mentor signature is in place. The mentor can click new to add any comment and then acknowledge to sign off on the mentor signature. Fourth, the PDP teacher signature must be done. They can enter the teacher comments for the end of the year and then acknowledge that last step. And then finally, the evaluator does the locking activity for the final PDP review cycle. So the PDP plan also has a record of activities report. It is shown in the channel that I showed you earlier, and it's called PDP Record of Activities. You're going to click on that. It opens up to view activity, and you actually have 4 reports that you can run in here. You have the PDP initial review, the PDP mid-year review, the end of year review, and then the overall PDP Record of Activities report. So you just have to select which one you'd like to print. And this also has an area for the evaluator to enter the record of a teacher activities. This was used during the COVID last year to put in those optional evaluations that were completed outside of the system last year. The evaluators could attach them in here as well. So check with your district so you know where your evaluation from last year is. Is it attached in here on the archive plan, or did they store those elsewhere? The evaluation process for the, good gracious, I'm having trouble with my numbers, don't I? For the 2020-2021 school year will close Wednesday, June 30th at 5 p.m. I'll get my typos corrected as soon as we get off the call today. But we do plan on closing out the system Wednesday, June 30th at 5 p.m. This is still tentative. It has not been officially sent out by DPI, but it should be soon. We work with the SIS system as well, your student information system, to make sure we're all on the same date and times for closing out our system. So when we close out our systems, we are going to be archiving your plan. Staff can always access professional development, those courses that you're taking in NCEES, if you are using the PD courses that are posted in there locally, or the DPI courses, those will always be available. But the plans will be archived right after 5 p.m. Wednesday, June 30th. So make sure all your plans are completed, everybody's signed off on everything, and any reports that you want over the summer to refer to must be printed out during the current year. Now, next year you could print a past year report, but if you want the most accurate data in these reports, I stress to all the admins, print out your summary reports before the end of the year after you have completed all the activities. Several districts will be wrapping up in April, May. And once you're sure everybody's signed off, everything's locked, everything's completed, go ahead and start running these reports. Admins have access to go to reporting, look under the Quick Reports module, and there are several summary evaluation reports. You cannot run the DPI reports. Those are for me to run, and we send those to Eval. But you can run these summary evaluation reports by the different roles. You have a summary for instructional technology facilitators, counselors, psychologists, teacher summaries, teacher abbreviated evaluation summaries. Those summary reports are available for you. We also just recently had a reporting webinar that goes over more reports that the district admins or site admins could run and save that they can use over the summer and into the fall when the superintendents are asking for reports on data from last school year. You can already have those in place. All right, so we're up to our additional resources. Do we have any questions before we move on? Here's a link to our NCEES Google site. There is a bit.ly for that, and it's just bit.ly/NCEES-support, and it's all lowercase. This is a great resource for you to look for upcoming webinars, to look for resources for your guides and resources for your manuals. Right here, teachers and support staff, central office staff are all located out here. If you're having any issues in the system, teachers and support staff, you should first contact your principal or your NCEES lead. And if they are not the person that can open a DPI ticket, they know who to contact to open a ticket with DPI. And then our support desk will troubleshoot any issues in our plans. It comes to me if needed, and then I escalate up to our vendor if there's a more broad issue that I cannot fix. But we definitely have a good support staff up here that readily answers your questions as they come in, and I'm very pleased with how quickly our NCEES tickets get resolved. Okay, and here's just a reminder to complete our survey. So we'll get that link in the chat before we go. If I can copy that, put that in there. This is where you complete the feedback for today. We always review this. We value your feedback, good or bad, what could be better done. Hopefully that'll work. It didn't do my little link there, but that should get you to our feedback survey. And if you'll complete that, it will send you a link to the certificate. And we will be following up with an email. It should be coming from me about the frequently asked questions, although we didn't have a lot of questions. We do have time if you have some additional questions. So we have another webinar coming up, and this is end of year for principals, and this will be March 16th. That's Tuesday from 4 to 5 p.m. And this is good for principals and the evaluators of the principals. All right, and here's our contact information, right here. We are always happy to help you. Thank you guys for all that you do in the field. I know how busy you are and for taking time to join us today for our webinar. So we'll be quiet just a minute and see if we have any other questions come in. And Kim, do you have any other comments before we close out?
No, thanks for everything, Cammie.
Thank you, Kim. All right, guys, it looks like we have no questions coming in. Thank you for attending. Today we're going to stop recording and end the session. You guys have a great evening.